Area. And I suppose some people concerned about the climate would have that as a particularly appropriate song, really, the road to hell that we're on if we don't actually mend our ways. Let's get to the phones and hear from you on the subject of climate change. Sam is on the line from Selby. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, how are you?
All right, is climate change a subject of concern for you?
Yeah, massively concerned about climate change. I'm of the younger generation to start with, and I'm concerned about the issues we'll have to deal with in the future. And I believe that everything you can do in terms of recycling and being more efficient with the energy we do use is very important to tackling it, for one. But ultimately, to tackle the big question, we need to start using carbon dioxide to make energy, to remake methane, to remake oil substitutes to burning cars. Then we mimic more like a rainforest, taking carbon dioxide in on a day and emitting it on a night as such. If it was in balance, that could help our climate, and that's what I'd like to see people doing.
Sam, you sound incredibly well informed on this subject. Whereabouts does your passion and your interest come from?
I work in agriculture, so we're on the forefront of the climate change issue. We have to deal with the consequences of the abuse the planet's felt, and it was just my own personal research I've overtaken in the years that's led me to some of these conclusions.
What sort of consequences? Do you actually believe that then, working on the land in North Yorkshire, there are any signs at all of climate change? Because I think people think that climate change is about, low-lying nations getting flooded, or places like California that's just gone through its umpteenth year of drought. People assume it's mega things like that. Do you think in North Yorkshire there are signs of climate change?
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, the climate has always changed. There's been 10,000 years of cold followed by 10,000 years of warmth when you look back through the ice records. However, we should be heading back into an ice age, and the temperature of the planet is accelerating in the opposite direction for the first time in millions of years, tens of millions of years, in fact. So surely this is a sign something isn't right.
How do you think, it's a question I'm putting to all our guests this morning, how do you think we get people who are cynical or disconnected with the whole, concern about it? Lots of people have got day-to-day family concerns, financial concerns, work concerns. How do you get people to engage with a big issue like this when they think, well, do you know what, it's nothing to do with me?
I don't think you will ever change the minds of the ignorant minority. I think the only thing you can do is educate the majority, whom will take responsibility, and they will take actions on behalf of these other people, which have their heads stuck in the sand, frankly.
Sam, good to speak to you this morning. Sam on the line from Selby. I'd say my guests are smiling from ear to ear, particularly David Midgley this morning from Zero Carbon Yorkshire. You've got a mascot there in Sam, I think.
Yeah, I totally applaud what he's doing, and I'm very glad that he's brought up the issue of agriculture, because often when we're talking about this, we focus on industry and power stations, but agriculture is incredibly important. We need to move towards more sustainable agriculture. At the moment, it's very heavily dependent on fossil fuels. We're using chemical fertilizers, which obviously use energy and create carbon pollution, and they also degrade the soil and stop the soil from absorbing carbon. So we really need to rethink agriculture. It could be a massive way of tackling climate change. At the moment is contributing to climate change.
Is there any sign that farmers will want to do that, will be prepared to do that? Because, producing a lot of food as cheaply as possible is what we demand of our farmers.
I think the answer to that one will be to look at the structure of agricultural subsidies. Often food is produced cheaply because there's massive government subsidies and they don't favour sustainable agriculture. So I think we need a policy change at the top to look at the importance of things like organic agriculture, which is not sufficiently supported. Too much support for intensive fossil fuel driven agriculture. We need to rethink our whole agricultural strategy, and really what we're doing is not only creating climate change but degrading the whole ecosystem by using industrial approach to agriculture instead of looking at it as a living system that needs to be nurtured and looked after, rather than just extracting the goodness from it and leaving it.
Andrew, well, as we heard Sam say there, he's of a younger generation. Does tend to be, I think, well, I don't know, tends to be older folks who, looking back and have got a bit of a perspective on life and look back and think, what have I done to this world? How has my life contributed to a problem like climate change? And then it does tend to be young people, like they get a burning passion for politics or some particular hobby or something like that. And you meet some young people, and I have to sort of take 2 steps back because they know so much about the planet, they know so much about climate change.
Well, I think they have a huge vested interest in there being a planet for them to grow old in. And I think that many older residents are thinking about, well, what sort of planet will there be for our grandchildren?
Is it a message that is going out through schools? I just wonder where the young people who are so well informed and passionate, are they getting it off the TV, from magazines, or is it actually coming across in the classroom?
Well, there's a lot of science in the climate change study, and that's part of the curriculum, although there are moves to have that removed. But I think that people are more aware of, if we keep doing this, if we keep using raw materials, mining it, throwaway society creating massive piles of waste, in the long run you just end up with a planet which is devastated.
Let's go back to the phones. Let's